I think we are, so we've got the folks that we invited as panelists on. It's 5:02. We've got about 16 attendees lined up so far. I've seen some folks coming in and out, so I think that that'll probably just continue to go up, which is fantastic. A couple of folks who already have their hands raised, so I would suggest, Mayor, that we go ahead and get started. And just so everybody is aware, this is being recorded. It's being recorded to both memorialize the results of this ascertainment hearing and just be able to make it available to the public as well. So, Mayor, I'll turn it to you.
Good evening and welcome to the City of Malden's public hearing on Verizon's cable license renewal. Today is Wednesday, January 13th, 2021, and the time is 5:03 p.m. I am Mayor Gary Christensen, and I am designated by state law to serve as the cable license issuing authority for the city. By way of brief background for the public, Verizon's cable television license expires on February 23rd, 2023. Federal and state law require the holding of public ascertainment proceedings, including this hearing, to identify public and city cable-related needs. Consistent with the governor's executive order on the holding of virtual or remote access meetings, this is a virtual meeting accessible through the Zoom video platform and through telephone to enable audio participation. Notice of this hearing was published in the Malden Advocate on December 31st, 2020, and on January 6th, 2021. And the notices provided links and telephone numbers for attending this virtual hearing. Copies of the legal advertisements are being entered into the record as hearing exhibits. Persons who wish to speak should click on the raise hand option in Zoom. For those calling in via phone, please select *9 to indicate your desire to provide testimony. Please note that I will do my best to take testimony in the order of request. Should you wish to supplement your oral testimony and to provide any written comments on matters of concern or comments concerning the renewal process, you can forward them to the office of the mayor at Malden City Hall, 210 Pleasant Street. We also note for the record, the process of ascertainment of community cable needs and interests will remain open until further notice, and the city welcomes public input as the process continues. So again, welcome, and we are now ready to proceed and accept comments from the public and interested persons. Please state your name and address before testifying, and we would appreciate it if speakers can keep their comments to no longer than 4 minutes. So now I'm going to ask Ron Hogan to help us administer tonight's meeting.
All right, so Mayor, right now we've got 18 attendees. We've got 7 folks who have raised their hands. Ron and I had spoken before the meeting. We're going to start by giving folks who are waiting a chance to, to testify verbally. And then I think the intent is to try to have some of the MATV folks supplement that by reading into the record some of the different written correspondence that we've gotten in support. And then I'll wrap that up with some of the other letters that may not get read into the record, but that have been submitted to us. So I'm going to go in the order that it looks like things have come into, but as the mayor said, I apologize if somebody may have clicked that raise hand first and doesn't get called first, but I'm sure everybody would like to hear what everybody has to say anyways. So I'm going to start with Donna Denoncourt because she's showing up at the top of my screen. And Donna, I think you should be ready to go. You are muted. You're now unmuted and you're all set.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it very much. I just, on behalf of the Malden Chamber of Commerce, we submitted a letter on MATV-UMA and all the benefits they have provided to us over the years. And I just want to echo and just affirm, especially during this pandemic, I really want to highlight just 3 quick things. Is we did an educational seminar on the SBA lending for our chamber members. Thanks to MATV, we were able to air that, and we had over 30 folks join that SBA lending. Very important during the pandemic. Second is obviously our monthly chamber showcase, which has been instrumental in not only membership, but obviously citywide, informing folks of what is going on in the chamber. And finally, I just want to, this is probably the star on the tree, is our film that we did for Virtual Taste of Malden, since we were not allowed to have the virtual taste, as you are all well aware. And one of our best events, we again worked with MATV and UMA to do a 1 hour highlight of 9 different restaurants to really showcase our restaurants who are chamber members and really kick off Virtual Taste of Malden and Actual Taste of Malden, thanks to that film premiere. So again, I'm just echoing all the things that I submitted in our letter. Important for me to verbalize that as well. I appreciate your time and consideration of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Donna. I'm going to disable Donna. And then the next I've got is Paul Solano. So Paul, I'm going to go ahead and bump you in there, and you just need to unmute, and then you should be good to go.
Thank you, Ron. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. August. For the record, my name is Paul Solano with an address of 51 Pleasant Street, number 126 in Malden. I am very happy to speak to you about my involvement with MATV, soon to be UMA. I've served as a past board member for MATV UMA on 2 different occasions during its illustrious 30-year history. At a past board retreat, the question was posed: if you could equate our organization with an animal, what animal would you select and why? Well, I thought about a minute or two, and I came up with a giraffe. Why? Because a giraffe stands tall, stands proud, and sticks its neck out for the community. MATV UMA is Malden's media center. It truly has been a pleasure to volunteer with MATV UMA since 1991. I produced and moderated the first set of live candidates fora on Access TV with a friend named Ernst Jean. This was just a short 30 years ago. In 1995, I produced and moderated a second mayoral forum on Access TV. And these candidates, the candidates in this forum, had a chance to enter the living rooms of the voters at home. MATV UMA has been a tremendous resource for my past involvement with the Malden Lions Club, and my current involvement with the Malden Rotary Club. These organizations and their respective missions have been promoted by this giraffe of Malden, MATV UMA. In sum, I respectfully request Verizon to provide adequate and increased funding to the City of Malden to support community media. MATV UMA truly needs to keep up with the changing technology, changing needs of the Malden community, but most importantly, maintaining its storied history of standing tall and standing proud as Malden's media center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and disable Paul. And the next person that we have is listed under Malden Democrats. So I'm going to allow them to talk and just ask that they identify who it is that's speaking on behalf of the organization. So if you would just unmute yourself as you've just done, go right ahead.
I apologize. I'm jumping meetings and Zoom accounts. This is Ari Taylor. I have several letters to read from myself and several others that have come in. So if you bear with me, you're going to have to hear me for a little bit of time. The first one I am reading comes from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, signed by Senator Jason Lewis, Representative Stephen Altrino, Representative Kate Lipper-Garbedian, and Representative Paul Donato. Dear MATV Board of Directors, we write today to thank you for the exemplary and essential work that Malden Access Television has been doing during the public health crisis. Even with new funding challenges created by a trend toward cord cutting, the consumer trend shifting cable subscriptions to online streaming services, MATV continues to provide the public with important local news and information. As the community grapples with rapidly changing COVID guidelines, restrictions, and advisories, this service is more important than ever. Like many organizations, MATV has made changes to its day-to-day procedures and work practices to accommodate COVID safety protocols. In-studio activities are limited to essential operations and special appointments, including a regular weekly fireside chat style show with the mayor of Malden during the past spring, which was an incredible and effective medium for public outreach. Even before the pandemic, MATV filled an essential niche in the Malden community, like many community access stations. The station live streams city council and school committee meetings, an important function to help communities comply with the state open meeting law and promote community engagement. MATV faces difficulty planning for operational and fiduciary obligations due to ongoing uncertainty. It is challenging to verify membership activity in a time when foot traffic at the station is necessarily limited. We support your request for further fiscal resources. We look forward to working with you during the upcoming legislative session, and we hope that other stakeholders recognize the important service you provide and work with us to support you. And again, that is signed by Senator Lewis, Rep. Altrino, Rep. Lipper-Garbedian, and Rep. Donato. Excuse me. The next letter that I'm reading is from the Bread of Life, signed by the Executive Director, Gabriella Snyder Stelmach. And she writes, addressed to the Mayor of Malden, Dear Gary, as the city negotiates new license agreements with Comcast and Verizon, Bread of Life would like to express our support for MATV, soon to be UMA. Bread of Life has worked with MATV UMA almost since MATV's founding. We've been a member organization, had volunteers trained in production and editing, appeared on many talk shows, and benefited greatly from their fundraisers and efforts to promote our work, preventing and alleviating food insecurity in the community. When I try to think of Malden without MATV UMA, it's almost a shocking thought. I can only see what a gaping hole would be left in our community. MATV UMA provides a voice, a platform for many local organizations, faith groups, cultural and ethnic groups, visual, musical, spoken word artists. MATV UMA showcases community and civic events. They keep the public informed through their government and education channels. They train and mentor youth in media arts. They train citizen journalists with Neighborhood View. They are a driving force behind Malden Reads. They bring the Malden community together. Although MATV UMA is working to bring in alternative sources of revenue, the money from the cable franchise agreement is critical to the organization's foundation. They have been good stewards of these resources. The value of the franchise fees that support MATV UMA give exponential value for the Malden community. I appreciate the mayor's office for giving us the opportunity to share our support for the services of MATV UMA. We understand that this ascertainment process is being held to assess how the communication needs of this community are being met by our local media center, and we are very happy to add our full support to that organization. It is our hope that the funding revenues will increase from the previous agreement as the need for these resources is greater than ever. Thank you for your consideration. And again, that's signed by the Executive Director, Gabriella Snyder Stelmach. Moving forward, I have a letter from Jonathan Matthews of J. Malden Center. Dear Mayor Christensen, I hope you're doing well and preparing for a phenomenal holiday season. As you may know, I am a member of MATV, soon to be UMA, and I found their programs and services to be of great value to the community. While the regular programming is without a doubt a necessity, the offerings from podcasting to videography programs have been a hit with the residents of J. Malden Center. We believe that UMA MATV empowers the community at large in a way no other organization in Malden can. It is my understanding that the money from the cable franchise agreement is critical to the organization's foundation. They have been good stewards of the resources awarded to them, and the value of the franchise fees that support MATV UMA give exponential value for Malden community, for the Malden community. MATV UMA's sound application of the cable franchise funds has provided vital resources to the community in terms of communication, information, connecting and building community, nurturing arts and culture, and promoting civic engagement. J. Malden Center appreciates the Mayor's Office for giving us the opportunity to share our support for the services of MATV UMA. We understand that this ascertainment process is being held to assess the Communication needs of the community are being met by our local media center, and we are happy to add our full support to that organization. It is our hope that the funding revenues will increase from the previous agreement, as the need for these resources is greater than ever. Again, signed, Jonathan Matthews, Community Manager for J. Malden Center. And just a couple more, sorry. This is from Paula Spitzeri, and she lives at 5 Beacon Street in Malden. Dear Mayor Christensen, as a member and former board member of MATV UMA, I am writing in support of the continued funding from the Comcast and Verizon contract funding upon the contract renewals. MATV UMA continues to demonstrate its value to the community, notably during this time of pandemic. They provided a lifeline to homebound Maldonians through your regular updates, cable casting, city council and school committee meetings, and other news-related shows. And recently, they provided local campaign and election coverage not available through other media. In the best of times, MATV UMA is a community hub like no other in our city. They provide a unique assortment of services to the public, youth programs, public forums, cultural events, and resident-produced shows. They educate people on media production, from studio cameras to video editing to podcasting, and provide an outlet for creativity and self-expression. In some cases, this has even led to career opportunities. But most of all, they bring together a cross-section of our community like no other Malden organization. People of all ages, races, backgrounds, and beliefs. Speaking from my own experience, I met and developed friendships and acquaintances with people I probably never would have otherwise crossed paths with. In a time when our society is so divided and contentious, the value of that cannot be overstated. Although MATV UMA is working to bring in alternative sources of revenue, the money from the cable franchise agreements are critical to the organization's foundation. If they are to grow and to adapt to the changing of our needs in our city, they can be relied on to use the funds wisely and transparently. The money from the franchise fees to support MATV is an investment in Malden's continued vibrancy. Thank you for considering my input. Bottom line, I can't imagine a Malden without MATV UMA. Can you? This last one is from myself and writing to whom it may concern. I am writing today to tell you what MATV means to me in this community. When I was 11 years old, I was extremely shy and had very little self-confidence. I signed up for a class from MATV through the YWCA and found my home. Over the next few years, I continued with classes in filmmaking, both at MATV and other schools. I had found a passion in something that allowed me to have my voice heard. MATV had a huge part in me becoming who I am, and it has the opportunity to continue to do that for others. Now, 30 years later, I am proud to serve MATV in the community as board president. This organization allows our community to share its voice, which has never been more important than it is right now. We have the opportunity to provide communication, technology, information, and continue to foster connections even with the limitations of COVID. The need for this organization has grown exponentially and continues to grow as we see more and more people turning to MATV for a voice, information, and a way to escape the madness of every day. This is what MATV provides and will continue to provide with the funding and resources necessary. Signed, Ariane Taylor. And that is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ari. So I'm going to disable Ari, and just a couple things. Ari has obviously read into the record just several of the outstanding letters that will be received. I'm sure that some others will be read into the record. Others may be placed into the record that haven't been read. To date, we've got over 30 letters, and we'll share a summary with the group also afterwards, but I'll keep going through. We've got 12 folks looking to speak, which is fantastic. I do see we have two of our city councils on looking to speak, who I believe might have some time constraints. So I'm going to pull them on next, and hopefully that's okay with everybody. I'm going to start with Council President Neil Anderson. I do want to remind everybody, if you wouldn't mind, just so that for the record we have a clear address as you speak, Again, several of the ones that have spoken already, we have letters to back them up, so we'll be able to fill that in. But if everybody could help with that, it'll just make sure. So, Council President Anderson, if you could unmute yourself, you'll be ready to go.
Yes, thank you, and good evening, ladies, gentlemen. My name is Neil Anderson. I'm the president of the Malden City Council. I live at 56 Mill Street in Malden, and I have to tell you that I am honored to be here and speak on behalf of MATV, soon to be UMA. I think it goes without saying all those wonderful things that we've heard already expressed about this great organization are shared by not only myself, but I believe all of the members of the Malden City Council. You know, we've seen this organization grow from a small, just getting started organization to what is probably the premier access television organization in the area. You bring great value and prosperity, I believe, to the city of Malden in what you do in terms of covering all of the civic, the school committee, the city council, the boards and commissions, the cultural events that go on. But beyond that, you bring great value by involving the ordinary citizens of our city of Malden and bringing them in, training them on the various aspects of television and audio production, teaching them and us skills that will make us better, not only better citizens, but better involved citizens in our community. We couldn't be more pleased than what we have with this organization now. And so I speak in as strong a terms as I can, asking that we continue to find the not only adequate, but in additional resources as much as we can to this organization that has brought great value to our city. And so on behalf of myself and my family and not only the constituents that I represent, but the entire city council, I am pleased to be here to say, yes, thank you for all that you have done, MATV, soon to be UMA. And for us in the city government, we need to do all that we can to keep you going. And so with that, I say, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Council President Anderson. So the next one, I'm just going to, again, because I think you may have some time constraints, is Councilor at Large Steve Winslow, and then we'll keep going back to the list. So let me pull Steve up. Councilor, you should be ready to go if you just unmute yourself.
All right, thank you so much. I'm also want to reiterate Council President Anderson's strong support from the City Council for MAT becoming UMA. I know my involvement in the community really started just about the time MATV got going. And at that time, the Malden Observer and the Malden Evening newspapers were the way our community connected. And those papers are, one's gone and one's a far cry from being a true record in a connecting way. So MATV has really been a central and vital hub that connects our very diverse community. And I've participated and learned about MAT's new vision to become UMA, and it's just very forward thinking. And it's very critical. Here we live in an age where I think everybody's concerned about how do we work in the social media world. And one of the things that making some things happen there is actually have some avenue where social media is grounded in the community, where people and community members come together and agree on norms and create trust rather than just being, trolls and other things. I think that's one of the things that MATV can help do besides just the technical skills. It's about, being fair to your fellow citizens. And it is very vital to have an outlet. I mean, we know as a community, more and more people in our community want transparency from our government. And one of the things that MATV does is provide that transparency for everybody. And just, as someone who's been involved with nonprofits and taken, trainings on nonprofits, the most successful nonprofits have multiple funding sources. And so I think it's also very, great that UMA is looking to diversify. But, it's very important to have some strong and reliable sources of funding to allow you to leverage that into many other things. So I'm very supportive of maintaining and expanding the funding for UMA so that, you can remain a strong hub of the community and be such a great resource. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Council Winslow. So next person I'm going to pull up, and I'm going to apologize in advance if I don't get the name pronounced right, but is it Nomadic?
Nomadic.
Nomadic. I knew no matter which way I went with that, I'd have the accent on the wrong syllable. So Nomadic, if you could unmute yourself.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
It's Nomadic, but you did pretty good. Yes, I prepared a letter for to read tonight, but I wanted to just say a few words from my heart about MATV. MATV is everything to Malden, to me personally. It's my direct connection and link to the entire community, where I got to meet really important people who have made moves in Malden and beyond, such as yourself, Gary Christensen. And through MATV, I was able to create my own show, which I never thought I would do. I learned so many different skills, connected to so many people that I still remain very close friends with. I mean, it has just been an amazing source for me. And I know with the current situation right now, things are changing and new funding sources are coming into play. But it is very important for this community to maintain such a viable resource as MATV, because everywhere I go, I sing their praises, and there's like so many things I can say in regards to this wonderful station. And as MATV UMA prepares to the next chapter into UMA, I would love for them to still provide the resources to change lives of youth, change businesses, and all the connections that they can continue to make in this community and continue for many years to come. So I really hope you will consider continuing funding source with the cable going forward. Thank you for this.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, and I do apologize for not getting your name pronounced right. So the next one that we've got is Marsha Manon. So Marsha, I'll go ahead and allow you to speak if you can just unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'd like to first just say thank you for giving me this opportunity to also speak from the heart. I haven't written a letter, but I had to come and say something because MATV, soon to be UMA, is such an important part of this community, such an important part of Malden. When I first moved here, I've only been here about 6 years, having moved after living in South Africa for the previous 20 years. I was looking for something to do. And MATV has been an invaluable asset to me as I look for ways to engage in my new community. I've been involved with MATV, UMA in various ways. I was a board member. I was a citizen journalist. I've been a videographer. I've been a participant in their partnerships with Malden Reads, with Malden Core on the Juneteenth celebrations, and so many other important events that take place in Malden. Most important, I appreciate the local community content that is our access on our channels. MATV, soon to be UMA, has been such an important and essential voice of Malden communities, inclusive of our city government, our school learners, youth, and the different interests of the diverse community members that live here. It is the voice of the community. And it also, it's like it educates, it informs, it entertains, and everyone is made to feel welcome. And also now with the uncertainty in our lives, since the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic has hit us, it impacts the way we live, the way we go to school. The challenge has been, how do we stay engaged while we practice our civic responsibility, basically of social distancing and mask wearing? How do we stay connected? And MATV UMA is the way we stay connected. It is so important. Our future in terms of media arts is in your hands, I feel, in terms of this Verizon contract. So my appeal today is to continue the funding to MATV UMA in a manner that's befitting such a dynamic organization. Basically, we're counting on you to help us to continue to be a leader in community access television. So in order to do that, we're going to need the monies, the funding to make it happen. Things are changing, technology changes. So there's a lot of new requirements for us to go forward. But I think someone else mentioned, what would we be without MATV UMA? And that's such a sad thing to think about. We can't, our city cannot do without our MATV UMA. So I'm appealing for your support and keep up the good work. It's such a small staff at MATV, and yet they do so much. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Much appreciated. I'm going to go ahead and disable Marcia. And the next person we've got listed is just listed as Christine. Again, just a friendly reminder, if everybody could read their name and address for the record. Christine, you should be ready to go. If you could just unmute.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We can.
This is Christine Murphy. I live in the Maplewood section, 1 Hartshorn Avenue in Malden. And I'm going to begin and end with the same statement. The beginning theme would be MATV, soon to be known as UMA, does add value to Malden. I've been a member since it first opened in the first year, 1989. And at that time, and for a few years after that, we just had the one public channel because we were getting our feet on the ground and learning how to run a station, basically. Then over time, it evolved into 3 channels, where one was dedicated to public access, another one, the educational access, and the third one, the government access. MATV staff started out with just a few people, and then over time evolved as dedicated resources to support each channel were added. Malden has way more than just one school. It has public schools, it has the charter schools, it has parochial schools. And so a dedicated resource allowed someone to be in touch with all the various schools and to be aware of the programs that go on. As much as the staff does, they also developed a real core of volunteers, all ages, all backgrounds, all cultures, and languages also, multiple languages. And from my years involved there, you see all ages. You see seniors who have retired. A lot of them have very technical backgrounds, or maybe they don't, but they want to continue to learn. You see teens involved. And actually, many of the teens that started off in various programs and classes at MATV ended up developing skills that enabled them to go into the industry itself and find jobs. So they were able to develop an interest and then a skill set that enabled them to become successful later in life. And all the ages in between. People have various reasons for becoming involved with MATV. It could be interest in a particular topic like Bread of Life, or it could be interest in, say, religious services. But everyone has a different interest for joining. Over the many years I've been involved, I have been a board member on 2 different occasions. And I've seen MATV evolve with the times. Social media over the past, 10, 15 years has become much more prevalent. And so MATV evolved also. It developed podcasts. It taught the skill set. So many of the teens could actually put videos on YouTube, again, building their skill set and keeping their interest. Because if they're not interested, they're just going to not come down there. I have to mention that obviously the pandemic has affected everyone. It's affected every industry, including Malden Access. And providing a vehicle for Gary to have the Malden updates each week. I know a lot of my friends would wait until Wednesday night at 7:00 to listen. And you were very upfront. If you didn't know an answer, then you said that right up front. You didn't try to, skirt an issue, and you got back to them after the fact too. So, but that was very, very important to the community. And without MATV, that would not have happened. Again, I said I would begin and end on the same note. MATV, soon to be UMA, has added value in the past. It adds value currently in this horrible time that we're in now. And I fully expect in the future that it will continue to add value to the community. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Next up, we've got Rob DeMarco. So I'm going to pull Rob up. Rob, if you could just unmute, my friend. There you go.
Good evening, everyone. Rob DeMarco. I speak 17 Division Street in Malden. I speak both as a resident, lifelong of the city of Malden, as well as a business owner and an active member of the community. Since I have been involved in community, I've witnessed MATV's infiltration through all aspects of Malden's life, whether it be civic, government, community, religion. MATV is always there. Anytime there is a function, MAT cameras are there. Anytime there is an emergency, MATV is posting it. And as we as a society have converted from a cable station to social media and the online community, MATV has grown. MATV is integral to the fabric of the city. And as such, the funding is integral to MATV continuing. As it becomes UMA and diversifies, it's important for us to fund it in a way that is going to allow it to continue to infiltrate those new areas of our society as they expand and grow. I am extremely supportive of the organization. I think it's one of our premier nonprofits, along with Bread of Life, Triangle, and the others. It is part of our identity, and it helps to bring our community together through all of its works. So I would strongly urge that this panel let Verizon know that MATV is doing its job and doing it well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. So next up, we've got Jeff Taylor. Jeff, I've allowed you to speak. If you could just unmute yourself, we should be ready to go.
Hi, thank you. This is Jeff Taylor. I live at 57 Mount Vernon Street in Malden. I have been watched MATV, the city council meetings and school committee meetings each week. I've been a guest on one of the shows, taken classes at MATV, and I've worked in production at MATV. I've been able to expand my knowledge in my chosen field that I work in entertainment production, one of the local businesses. Both me and the other full-timer have been able to build and hone our skills at MATV, soon to be UMA. The only full-timers there on staff, and have learned a lot through MATV. So, adjunct community members, successful livelihoods, as well as all the other things they do for the culture of the community. So I want to speak in favor of the continued funding. And if we could even expand their funding, I don't know what kind of possibilities that would be, but I think they could even do even more if they had more money to maybe hire more staff, or however they would see that used best. I don't know, but I think they could even do more than they already do now, which is a lot. But I don't want to take too much more time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, next up, we've got Joe Gray. Joe, I should be all set if you could just unmute yourself.
Yes, my name is Joe Gray, 295 Rail Lebanon Street, Malden, Massachusetts. I'm the Ward 6 School Committee member. I'm just going to riff for a moment because I don't have any prepared notes. Everyone's heard the term hindsight is 2020. That's what Malden Access / UMA is to me. Approximately 10 years ago, things changed in my life. I decided to get more involved in the community, more involved in politics, more involved in everything in the city. And for a while, I floundered around. I had nowhere to go. I stumbled across MATV. Not till years later did it sink in that there was nothing else like it. There was literally nowhere else to go to get the specific skills that I needed to do what I felt I needed to do. I wouldn't be here now as the Ward 6 School Committee member. I wouldn't be here now as a community leader. I wouldn't be putting on all sorts of random shows. You know, Gary sat in on one of my little talk shows. I've hosted city councilor talk shows. I've done little community events, all kinds of things. I've been experimenting. I never really mastered any of the skills. Ron and the crew can tell you that. But the skills I learned were invaluable. For example, the simplest things, they'd stare me in the eye and say, Joe, you need to have a script. I'm like, what? And then years later, it sank in. The simplest little things I can't get anywhere else. There's no other place like it. That's pretty much what I need to say. Without MATV, when there's a next generation of people who want to get engaged in the community on almost any level, if they don't have UMA to get the kind of training that I got, podcasting, shows, lighting, oh, and heaven forbid, if I don't get the right kind of lighting with my dark skin, it's over. They can't do it. They can't do it. There's nowhere else to go if we lose MATV. That's all I got to say, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Joe. All right, next up, we've got Tralonzo Amos. I'm going to go ahead and put you up next, Tralonzo. If you don't mind unmuting yourself, you should be ready to go.
Thank you. My name is Tralonzo Amos, and I live at 62 Bowden Street, Malden, Mass. And I am speaking as a longtime resident of the city of Malden and a board of directors member for the Malden Neighborhood Basketball League. Excuse me. I'm about to read to you a letter that has been written by Kenny Mazonson of 206 Bryant Street, Malden, that was addressed and sent to the mayor's office. Dear Mayor Christensen, my name is Kenny Mazonson. I am the founder and president of the Malden Neighborhood Basketball League, hereafter MNBL. Our league has had a long and proud relationship with MATV, UMA, Urban Media Arts, its facilities and employees. The league began showing its games on MATV in 1989 and continues to show them to this day. We also have a live weekly show during the season called Around the Rim that highlights the players, coaches, game leaders, and events of the MNBL. These are outstanding opportunities to publicize the program and provide opportunity to the community to see some great things that are going on within Malden for the benefit of teen athletes. The publicity from the programming of the MNBL games and Around the Rim have had a profound effect on our ability to keep our registration numbers up to sustain a viable league. MATV UMA has also provided a greater service to the community than just assisting the MNBL by showing city council and school committee meetings and parades, dedications, and other ceremonies. They have provided the citizens of Malden an opportunity to stay informed with civic activities. This station provides Malden with a source to build a community through entertainment, communication, and information. Probably the best and most recent example of this are updates featuring you and other Malden officials detailing the status of the COVID in this city and what is available to assist those in needs. The funds from the cable franchise agreement are critical to the lifeline to MATV UMA. These funds are needed to pay for the necessary upgrades and equipment as well as the salaries for the employees. The bulk of their funding, I believe, comes from this agreement. And even though MATV UMA is attempting to generate other sources of revenue, the cost of the franchise fees that are needed to support MATV UMA are greatly outweighed by the benefits that this commodity provides to Malden. The coaches, players, and supporters of the MNBL appreciate you for giving us the opportunity to endorse the efforts of MATV UMA, and we hope that you will also favorably assess the value of MATV UMA as an effective and resourceful media center for all the citizens of Malden. We hope that you will endorse increasing the funding revenues from the prior agreement, since the needs of these additional resources, especially when so many more people are confined to their homes during the pandemic, are greater than they have ever been. Sincerely, Kenny Mazonson.
Thank you. And Talonzo, I think I know who's going to get the next woo of the week. So thank Mr. Mazonson, okay?
Thank you, will do.
Thank you, Talonzo. All right, next up, we've got Amanda DeRosa. Amanda, I'll go ahead and ask you to just unmute yourself and you should be ready to go.
Hello, my name is Amanda DeRosa, and I live at 147 Washington Circle in Woburn, Massachusetts. And I wrote a letter. I'm going to read an abridged version of it. So my name, as I said, is Amanda DeRosa, and I am currently interning at MATV, soon to be UMA. I also do some part-time administrative work for the office. I have, as others have mentioned, forged skills and relationships I would never have otherwise. I am also a graduate student of Simmons University, where I study library science, and library science involves organization, preservation, access to information, physically and digitally. And it also involves archiving this information for posterity in recorded human history. And I believe that MATV UMA harnesses these values of informational stewardship on a communal level. And in the age of Google, I think it's extremely important that we maintain community reporting organizations. MATV UMA allows direct access to community news, events, and various other types of information necessary to develop community value and allow voices within the community to be heard. The citizen journalism aspect of the organization, Neighborhood View, is a shining example of this dedication to sharing stories within the community. And the money from the cable franchise agreement is absolutely critical to the organization's foundation. MATV UMA's astute use of the cable franchise funds has provided vital resources to the community. And it's my hope that the funding revenues will increase from the previous agreement as the need for these resources is greater than ever. Signed, Amanda DeRosa.
Thank you.
And thank you. I'm going to go ahead and pull up our next speaker is Janelle DeVitz. Hi, Janelle. You should be ready to go if you just unmute yourself.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. This is Janelle DeVitz. I live at 3 Sheridan Street in Malden. I'm speaking tonight as a citizen and also as a board member for UMA. I have been working with UMA now for, I want to say, a couple of years. And, you know, although we are working and focusing on increasing our funding and increasing our revenue from other streams, this cable contract revenue really is a very large percentage of our budget. And obviously with those type of plans to get more diversified revenue streams, it actually takes money to invest in those type of initiatives. So whether it's getting new equipment, new capital improvements, whether it's additional space, new personnel, all those operations and costs really add up. And so, you know, to the extent not only can we get the same amount of funding, but we need more funding. And I think the return on investment is going to be huge for the city. I've been impressed as somebody coming from the private sector to see how much UMA can actually do on such a tight budget that they do have and what they are able to save in their rainy day fund just in case. It has been, you know, quite an honor to get to know Ron and Ann and see how well they manage their teams and what they're able to do for our city. It's quite impressive. But I will say this, it is a high percentage that we rely on these funds. They are critical to our operations, but we don't need to just match what we get. We need more, and not more because they spend it, you know, recklessly or you know, without thought, but more because it's an investment in our future as an organization. Obviously rebranding to be more of a regional media center, reaching out to other communities, increasing membership, getting more space. You know, all of these things are necessary and they will be beneficial to Malden and they will be beneficial to surrounding towns. I want to just lastly say that, you know, although they are able to do what they do with the current funding, I'm so excited to see what they're able to do with additional funding, and I can't wait to be a part of it. So, you know, as much support as I can give, and as, you know, a heavy encouragement I can give to you guys, it is worth it. And like I said, the return on investment, you know, will be great for our city. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janelle. So next up, we've got Dee Campbell-Tompkins. So Dee, you should be ready to go. I've put you on. If you could just unmute yourself. Dee, if you could just unmute your mic. All right, one more time. Dee, I don't know if you can hear it. Oh, there you go.
Okay. All right. Oops. You hear me now, right?
Yep. I can hear you, yes.
Okay. So my name is Deirdre Campbell-Tompkins. I'm a lifelong Malden citizen and involved in various, you know, activities in the city. And I have been a member of MATV UMA for a good long time. And I fully support all of the wonderful activities and initiatives. I mean, the entertainment, the education. It's not simply teaching technology or, you know, how to produce a show, but it has an amazingly wonderful effect on the community in terms of gathering people and creating connections. I remember fondly one of the open houses that was packed. And I came away feeling like, well, you know, they can't get people to go to the churches, but, you know, it's great to see another entity that's gathering people in the city. The other thing is I happen to just turned 65 a few months ago, and I also have a disability. So I would like to mention even pre-COVID, I think people really rely on MATV and UMA. I would also mention the senior population, maybe who don't want to even increase the technical skills, unfortunately, but there are many that rely on MATV and UMA. You're listening to PSAs that are so important, all kinds of communication and awareness. Now, in the midst of COVID, I think MATV is even more vital to our community, and has given me personally such an important part in listening to the city council, the school committee, and every time I have spoken with Ron and Ann about various ideas I may have in terms of additional PSAs, or even when I have been a guest on a few shows, they are so supportive and creative. So I would just leave it at that I fully support any additional funding, and I think it's absolutely necessary. And in many ways, MATV and UMA are the glue, very much a glue to our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Dee. I'm going to pull up our next participant who's calling in from the phone, so I don't have a name, but I'm going to go ahead and bring that person live and ask that they unmute themselves as well as introduce themselves. You're ready to go. Okay, that person dropped off. So the next one that we've got, and if something happened technically and they jump back on, I'll bump them to the top, although we've only got a couple of folks left who are looking to provide testimony. But I'm going to go to Diana John. Diana, you should be ready to go if you could just unmute yourself.
Okay, hi. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yep.
Hi. Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Diana Jong. I live at 12 West Street in Malden. I'm currently a board member of MATV. I'm also affiliated as part of Malden Reads. However, my testimony emphasizes our relationship as Asian Spectrum. And I would like, on behalf of Asian Spectrum, to thank MATV, soon to be UMA. Thank you so much for all the support you've given us for the past 23 years. When we first started, we did that because we knew that the Asian population was starting to grow in Malden, but there weren't a lot of services for our community. And we decided what would be better than to have a cable TV show. However, we had no skills at all to do this. Rika, then I think it was Jeff, now Ron, and Ann have been tremendously supportive. They've taught us, they've been generous with their time, with their spirit. And for 23 years, the Asian community had a voice in the Malden community. And it's thanks to MATV and for everything that they've given to us. The Asian population was probably about 5-6% when we first started. It's probably going to be about 25% when all the census is being fulfilled. And I think it's so important that we have a diverse population that has an ability to be heard from, to know what's going on in the community in their own language. And even though we've retired, we have a template. We have people who have been inspired to continue to work for the city of Malden in behalf of the Asian population. And I think it all started with MATV/UMA. And I think that is so vitally important to the mission of a place like MATV/UMA that we continue, and especially the funding is so important. We were able, through the skills that we learned, to not just stay in the studio, but to go out. That takes capital investments in equipment and people skills. So not only is the level funding important, but to increase funding. There are many diverse groups in Malden. I hope they take advantage of what Asian Spectrum was able to do and to give themselves a voice. It is so vital to be part of the community in our own language and to see people that look like each other be on TV. It's really important. And I thank MATV UMA for doing that, for being so supportive. And I hope that you will continue giving us funding that is critical to being what we're able to do in the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diana. Okay, next up, we've got Eden Gerhardt-Smith. Eden, oh, hold on. First time I've done it, I hit the wrong button. Okay. You should. All right, so I'm going to have to promote you to panelist. That's what happened. I come up with a note that you're using an older version of Zoom. So I'm going to promote you to panelist, Eden, and you should be good to go if you can just unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi, thank you. I'm using a kid's Chromebook, so that's what happened. Sorry. I just wanted to throw my support for MATV and UMA. My name is Eden Gerhardt-Smith. I live at 16 Corey Road in Malden. I also wanted to say, if it matters, I have Verizon, so I give them money. But I also just want to say how much MATV UMA means in terms of cable access for government shows like Watching Council or school committee meetings. But more than that, I really appreciate the offerings they have for my kids, especially my oldest. They have, they have the haunted house, and he gets to participate in terms of, I don't know, he was rising from the dead, and he did green screen and learned a lot about technology. And I just don't know where he's going to get access to that, or if it didn't exist, where I would go to get that kind of education. He did like comedy recently, and I was really excited. Of course, COVID happened. My youngest is now 8, and that's about when classes start for the kids. And so hopefully he'll get to do that soon. So I really hope that everything pans out in terms of getting the funding that you need. And I really appreciate like how much MATV UMA in the schools, like exhibition night at Linden at the end of the school year, like they go around and film all the kids' exhibits, and the kids get to talk and really, I think, feel important. And I think that's a big part of being part of community is recognizing people's skills and feeling important, and that they provide something to the community. So that's all. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Really appreciate it. So, Mr. Hogan, I have to get to a shift at the warming center tonight. So where do we go from here?
So so at this point, we've taken all the questions from folks that have logged in to provide testimony, which is fantastic. We've had an hour straight worth of folks providing some great testimony for the record. Ron or Ian, I know a lot of those folks were able to weave in some of the content of some of the letters during their testimony, which was great. I don't know if you have any others that you were specifically hoping to call out beyond what was already read into the record. Of course, even if it's not read in, it will be in the record as provided to Verizon. Ron, you are muted.
I have one letter I'd like to read from Diane Portnoy from the Immigrant Learning Center. Is that okay, Ron?
Yeah, that should be fine. Ron, go ahead.
All right, dear Mr. Mayor Christensen, MATV, soon to be UMA, is an important hub that offers quality paths of creativity and connections for our community. The Immigrant Learning Center, the ILC, and us adult immigrant and refugee students have proudly partnered with MATV and UMA for many years. Through their media channels, MATV UMA offers support for our mission that gives a voice to immigrant and refugee adults. MATV UMA has filmed, reported, and shared events for many of the ILC programs. Some of these included our theater program, International Day, our swearing-in ceremony that celebrates the officiating of hundreds of new U.S. citizens joining with their friends and families at the Malden High School auditorium. MATV UMA brings us together. Now more than ever, this work is vital to our community. It is our hope that the funding revenues increase from the previous agreement as the need for these resources are greater than ever. Signed, sincerely, Diane Portnoy founder and CEO of the Immigrant Learning Center.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Ron. Ian, did you have anything you wanted to add beyond what's already been read into the record?
If I could just read one letter, I feel like it can, it's a little bit different. So this is from Karen Buck from the Malden, Friends of the Malden River. Dear Mayor Christensen, I, Karen Buck, am writing on behalf of the Friends of the Malden River and Malden River Works. Thank you in advance for your time in reading this letter in support of MATV, soon to be UMA. For years, MATV UMA has supported the Friends of the Malden River. In 2012, Malden Youth, sponsored by TriCap, produced a two-part documentary, The Malden River, Past, Present, and Future. Past, present, and potential, sorry. I still use this video as a reference in talks about the Malden River. The Malden River has been featured in different MATV UMA shows and Neighborhood View over the years. And here we are in the progressively potential era of the Malden River and the city of Malden. MATV UMA continues to reinvent itself to benefit our growing and diversified city. I see many and most ethnic groups represented when I attend MATV UMA events and our annual meetings. MATV UMA serves as an equitable community hub for all of Malden, including arts, education, enrichment, our local government, civic engagement, especially with our youth, Malden Reads, and more. MATV UMA's support has been critical for the Malden River Works waterfront and project process of community outreach. They lent equipment, technically supported the public meetings, assisted with public meeting and survey promotion, and encouraged our members to create an environmental MATV UMA program. MATV UMA's resources were an integral piece of the successful results of Malden River Works' multiple surveys and public meetings. The Friends of the Malden River and Malden River Works look forward to working closely with MATV UMA for increasing awareness and support for environmental justice and protections. This closely aligns with public health and sanity. Our green and blue spaces are a saving grace for safe socialization during the pandemic. Now in 2020, Malden is realizing the potential of the Malden River. Our strong future is today. Our resilience is being tested daily. We need to preserve our local communication channels for solidarity, equality, and justice. Now more than ever, the money from the cable franchise agreement is critical to MATV UMA's preservation and growth. This organization has been and will continue to be good stewards of these resources. Their reliance on volunteers not only strengthens the community ties, but reduces the cost of personnel. There is a perception of value along with the much needed funds with the franchise fees, which strengthen MATV UMA's community presence. We appreciate the Mayor's Office for giving us the opportunity to share our support for the services of MATV UMA.
Thank you, Ian.
Very good.
So Mayor, at this point, I think, so we of course have got more letters than we probably have time to read here, but all of those will be memorialized both in terms of just being shared as they were submitted to Verizon, as well as through it's interesting, I went through them all and put together a little summary that I'll make available to folks where I tried to pull out some of the more interesting quotes from each one. It's sort of interesting for me, having read through them. I'll just highlight one thing that there was a letter from a Jennifer McLean, and one of the couple of sentences she had, she mentioned, did you know the first African-American woman to qualify for the Olympics in 1936 came from Malden? And I'm reading that because I didn't know that. And a person with that kind of grit can only be from Malden. More importantly, where else can you learn about her and the odds she faced but at MATV UMA, of course. And so folks were able to share a lot of different personal things that I think, anybody that might have some interest in either looking at the letters or the summary, I think it helps really convey the passion that the community has. And so, my role, for the sake of folks on the call, the mayor has tasked me with representing him on behalf of his office with this renewal process and making sure that the importance of funding, the importance of MATV/UMA to the community, and making sure that we get everything we can to continue the great work that they have done comes through in those negotiations. And so we'll continue with that. I don't know, Bill, if there's anything else that needs to be part of this record at this point in time, or if we've done a sufficiently good job tonight of laying that groundwork.
Not at this time. This is nothing else at this time. But the process shall, for the public's information, I'll just mention that this is an ongoing process that the mayor has been conducting to listen to the public as prescribed by the Cable Act. So folks are welcome to provide additional information. And I would just want to personally thank Ron Hogan, because I'm assisting from a distance in preparing the city legally, working with the mayor and Ron, and Ron has been responsive at every turn. So I just want to thank Ron for his work on this.
All right. The only other thing I'd add, Mayor, is that, of course, some folks on the call may have also participated in the first one of these we had, which happened to be the first time we had been conducting one of these hearings via Zoom. And I think with it came the challenges of sort of getting the word out. Clearly tonight, we've been able to get the word out, and I think it represents the passion for the organization, maybe more than the first time, but this will be shared with Comcast so that they get the benefit of the same, even if this was advertised as a Verizon meeting. So
I also just note thanks to Ron Cox and the folks from the public, because they too have, when the mayor's office has reached out, they've really been diligent too, trying to turn things around. So thank you all.
Again to Anderson Ross.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
And
Thank
Ron
you.
Hogan, great job.
Very well done. So, Ron, where we go from here,
as Bill said, first step in a long process. A lot of the next work will be led by the Buskey Group, who is on this call and has been engaged by MATV/UMA to try to provide a lot more detail beyond the testimony here to the needs of the organization and the community. But I would say that we've done our job and done our job well here tonight and laying the groundwork for that process. So I think it's a fantastic start.
Right. And since there was substantial testimony tonight, we should follow up on Ron Hogan's suggestion to transmit this to both Verizon and Comcast, because it will show them that the city is diligently taking this seriously and has a lot of relevant information. So we should, even before the Buskey report, the MATV needs report, working with Buskey, we can work on transmitting the substantial information we have assembled to date.
I will take care of that.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep. Well, thank you, everyone, and especially thank you to those testifying this evening. Very, very well done. We might put them on some other projects based on what they did here tonight. And Mayor, thank you for volunteering at the warming center.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm on my way there now. They're not putting me in the kitchen.
All right.
Because one of the shows I did at MATV, they saw it. No kitchen duty for me.
If they put you in the kitchen, they ought to just hand you a phone and a bunch of menus to call for.
Yeah, there you go.
I know. All right. Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Great job, Ron.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.